So a couple of things. I think the race scene is dead because in 3.0, racing was introduced in segments. So it went from local racing to B class racing to A class to A plus to S, right? So that's why racing in 4.0 is dead, because there just isn't that, there was just never that step level. It was just straight to, hey, you need a 300k car to be competitive. And unless you were willing to grind your ass off, you didn't have the money, right? Second of all, racing is a lot scarier now, because in 3.0, a lot of the lines that you took were very, very close to poles and signs and things that didn't really make a difference if you hit them. If you hit them, it was like, oh no, I've lost a second. Now, if you hit one of those things, you're either dead or your car's out, right? So the lines that you'll see people are taking are going to be a lot more scared now. There's not going to be many people that are going to be willing to full send it, because cars break easier. They have more things to break on. The cars are faster. They don't break as good. They don't turn as good. So the cars they don't perform as well. This is my opinion, by the way. Just remember that. In my opinion, the cars don't perform as well as they did in 3.0. But there's more things to be concerned about and more problems that can be had during the race in 4.0. So you're going to find that people are a lot more scared and reserved when it comes to driving, because hitting something is like a huge thing now. Like a huge thing. Like you can be out after one crash. So in my opinion, I preferred 3.0 racing. Another reason why as well is, as cool as the UI is for you guys as a viewer, from the actual person that's driving and from a racer's perspective, the new UI isn't really that great, because in 3.0, all of the information that I needed was in the bottom right-hand corner. I could instantly look at it. It would take me 1 millisecond and boom, it's there. Done. Got all the info I need. Now, if I want all the info I need, I gotta look at the top left to see who's behind me, the top right to see this, you know, the bottom right to see this, the bottom left to see that. So it's a lot harder to see the information that you want to see during the race. That's important. Well, it's not important, but it's nice to know what position you're in, what your lap time is, you know, things like that. So it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more distracting as well, I think, right? Like I say, from a viewer point of view, it's amazing. You guys can spend as much time as you want staring at all that stuff, right? But from a driver's point of view, it's not the greatest. It's quite distracting. And you have to, like I say, look everywhere, right? So another thing everyone says is the driving is shit. I wouldn't say shit. That's harsh. The driving is not shit. I just think with a lot of the cars, there's no real... So in 3.0, the devs made a conscious effort to make sure all the cars were similar. Don't get me wrong, there was always broken cars. The Corvette was a class above every other car. The R8, even though people don't want to admit it because it was Tommy's car, it was a class above every other car. You know what I mean? There was multiple cars that were way better, but for a majority, a lot of the cars were very similar. In 4.0, it's not really the case. It seems like they're either really good or they're just shit. There's no in between. Like, there's no... This is a baseline for the car. They're either really good or they're just shit. Like I say, this is all personal opinion. You got to remember as well, though, chat, a big thing you've got to remember is the devs are currently working on bringing in the tuner shop, which obviously brings in more cars, which brings in customizations, which brings in tuning for the cars and all of that stuff. So you got to think they have probably behind the scenes tuned every single car in the city. But they haven't released the tunings because they're waiting for the rest of the content to be finished first so they can release it all in one go. You know what I mean? So the likely chance is this car on the dev server probably drives nothing like this, but they just haven't released it yet because they're waiting. So what you're saying is now there's a lot of variance to consider now compared to 3.0, and there is more risk than actual rewards when taking old racing lines. Yes, for sure. For sure. Like for instance, prime example. I'll give you a prime example right here. Anybody that watched me race in 3.0 and watched me race in Dueling Dragons, this track right here, you will know that I took this line every single time. And I used to dominate everybody with it. Which was straight down here, and I would pass everybody. Now, you have got zero chance if you think I'm doing that shit. Because there's so many polls and fucking posts and signs that I could potentially just ruin my whole race with, that there is no way on earth I'm going to run that risk. It just isn't worth it. Which, if you think about it though, from an RP standpoint, makes sense. Right? Obviously, from a roleplay standpoint, it makes sense that I don't want to accidentally crash into a sign at 150 miles an hour, right? Obviously. But obviously, you know, from someone that's raced in 3.0, I don't like it because I love the fact that if I hit them in 3.0, it wasn't a big deal. So there's always going to be pros and cons to these things. And it's all about finding a balance, right? It's all about the devs finding a balance between like what they want it to be like on the RP side of things, but obviously also kind of keep that, I don't want to say competitiveness because there shouldn't be ever any competitiveness in RP, but realistically, obviously when it comes to like the race scene, obviously there is competitiveness, but I'm sure you guys are understanding what I'm saying, right? It's all about finding that middle ground. And I think they've done a great job of it, by the way. This is not me like saying that the things that they've done is not in my favor. I mean, okay, they're not really in my favor if we want to be honest, because I'm a racer, right? But I don't think they've done a bad job with what they've done. I don't mind the changes. It's just a bit more nerve-wracking. Egos clash when people race, yeah, but it's always going to be like that. Egos clash when people have shootouts. Even if people don't want to admit it, they do, right? Whenever anybody is versus anybody in anything, whether it be a race or a gunfight or making money or anything, egos are always going to come into play. It's just human nature, man. It's humans, you know what I mean? Obviously, as role players, we suppress that, or we try our best, right? Because we understand that it's not about winning. It's about, you know, I know the cliche, it's not about winning, it's about taking part and having fun that counts, right? I know it's a bit cliche, but the reality is when it comes to role play, that is the reality, right? It's not about winning, it's about just enjoying it. But at the end of the day, all humans have egos, and as role players, we just have to do the best we can to suppress that. And that's just how it be.